Welcome to Mobilizing Tech Talent, Tools to Grow, Attract, and Retain Albertans, a 6-part web series presented by the Information and Communications Technology Council as part of a capacity building program called TADE, Talent Acquisition for the Digital Economy. The objective of TADE is to give small and medium Alberta employers HR tools to help them find, hire, and retain digital talent, which is essential to businesses across sectors to thrive in the digital economy. TADE is a free program funded by the Government of Alberta in partnership with the Government of Canada. A link to the program's resources can be found in the description below. Artificial intelligence is everywhere and has grown to be a tool that both maximizes efficiency and productivity in all sectors of the economy. More and more companies are beginning to learn about the benefit of machine learning and beginning to discover that having an AI specialist or team can provide the future to their company or organization. Stephanie Enders, VP of Product at Amii, or Alberta Machine Intelligence Institute, has been paving the way on educating not only employers on the benefit of AI talent, but also the general public on the advantages of integrating both the workforce and the technology in their day-to-day businesses. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today and contributing to this ICTC promoted series about employers and tools that they can use in the HR world. So we appreciate you for coming in today and talking with us.
Thank you so much for having us. We're excited for the conversation.
Awesome. So maybe we'll start off here. Tell me a little bit about what your role is over at Amii and what your team is working on, what Amii is all about.
For sure. So I work at the Alberta Machine Intelligence Institute, and I have the incredible pleasure of leading teams as they explore ways to help companies really adopt this cutting-edge technology. And so I have a variety of teams that are all obsessed with solving companies' problems in different ways and really meeting them where they're at, whether that's their level of technology adoption or the speed of which that they're adopting the technology. And then we even have teams that really look at the research and development side of AI for companies that are fairly far along their journey on the AI adoption spectrum. So we're really focused on making sure that those long-term investments in AI research here in the province really come to fruition for the benefit of our economy. And one of the best ways we can do that is to really find clear, tangible ways for companies to start on that journey with us.
Awesome. How is the education process for companies to learn about AI and machine learning or ML into their companies and integrating it? How is that kind of introduced to them?
That's a great question, and it's one that comes up a lot at Amii is around how do I start thinking about AI and how do I start educating myself or becoming the internal champion for adopting AI within my company. And so there's lots of ways you can do that. If you're someone who really learns by immersion, there's great opportunities through things like the AI Meetup in Edmonton that's virtually available. So you can come and hear kind of how AI is being applied in a really casual setting and get your toes wet that way. We also offer a number of training programs here at Amii. So we have monthly ML Foundations workshops that involve a live online portion plus some self-directed learning online afterwards that really helps your team, your leadership team, or even your emerging leadership figure out kind of what AI can do and can't do, some typical use cases, and also what you might need to be thinking about to get started even before you start that hiring journey of bringing technical talent onto your team.
Awesome. What are some of the things like with when we're talking about integrating AI into a company, an employer has obviously made that decision to do so. What are some of the things that they should be looking for when finding the talent to help implement or operate the AI within the company? What are some of the things that they could be looking for in an employee?
For sure. Well, I think it's really important to not think about this employee or this new hire or even this new team as separate from the rest of your organization and the culture you're fostering. So first and foremost, make sure that you're not making any unusual sacrifices or stretching too far to attract talent for a specific kind of domain. So be true to yourself, and there's tons of talent available, and the talent here in Alberta is really passionate about applied AI. So they want to know about the problem that you're wanting to solve with AI. So they're really motivated by the intricacies of the domain, how passionate you are about the domain you work in, and how that they're work can contribute to that. So don't downplay the domain you're in. Don't worry about showing off how high tech you are right off the bat. I think talent really wants to know how they can be of service and use their skill set in a unique way in your business.
Awesome. I'm glad you brought up skill set. You recently Amii recently partnered with Microsoft to work on a white paper that was about identifying the skills gap. Can you tell us a little bit about that project and that research and what came from it and what the future is for using that information?
For sure. So the white paper that we did with Microsoft was definitely a combined effort to really provide that overview of what's in the market right now, how rapidly we can expect that to change, and providing some really specific Amii lens insights to what we've seen over our time as an institute. So I think one of the biggest learnings is that there's gaps on both sides of the equation, both the non-technical side of your business and the technical talent that you might be looking to bring on. So I think that's one of the most surprising things when you hear something around a white paper looking at the gaps in AI talent. Often the conversation goes towards volume. We don't have enough people. We need to start training early. There are challenges around the volume of talent on the technical side, and there's ways that you can mitigate the risk of not being able to access that talent. But I think what really came across for me in the AI white paper was that there's steps you should really be taking on the non-technical side, on that business and strategy side, to make sure that your team is aligned, to make sure you know what talent you're going after, how you're going to make the selection, and most importantly, once you find that person, how do you set them up for success? You've made a giant investment in recruitment and bringing someone on board. You want to make sure that all of your teams are ready to take advantage of having that new skill set on your team.
That's awesome. You nailed a lot of answers to a couple of the questions, but I'm just going to kind of pinpoint a few things here. So what can employers do to attract that talent? We're talking that the pool could be very thin, but how do we attract them into our organization and make them become part of our culture?
That's a fantastic question. And I think there's so much dialogue in the market right now around kind of the ways that you attract talent. And there's really simple things you can do that aren't necessarily around kind of making yourself the most competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say the number one thing a company can do is to show up in the ecosystem and in the community around being an AI leader. So even if you don't have all your ducks in a row about knowing exactly what your AI project's going to look like, you can start seeding yourself as an employer that cares about AI talent, is interested in where the industry is going by coming out to those events, about sharing your plans, about being more transparent about how you're thinking about applying and adopting the technology. Talent is really interested in companies that show that they're AI thought leaders and aren't trying to kind of downplay that piece of their business. So really to show that you're committed both short-term and long-term to this technology adoption is one of the first great ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other piece is talking about how that person is integrated into your larger business or organization as soon as possible through the recruitment phase is really important. I think one of the things that knowledge economy or tech talent experiences when they're brought into a smaller, medium-sized enterprise that isn't technology first is this fear of being an island unto themselves that has to figure out everything on their own and doesn't have mentors or coaches to go to for support. So as you're in the market looking to recruit that talent, be really open about how integrated the role is so that they know that if they do come to your business, they have champions and partners who will unlock some of those internal barricades or blockades to success that might come up through a project.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. I love that you use the word open. It's a conversation that, or it's a topic of this conversation that continually comes up when we talk to how employers can retain and attract, and that's about being open, being upfront with what your intentions are, what you want to achieve, and by being open like that, it allows the employee that's looking for that job to see potentials that maybe even the employer hasn't identified yet on where they can be useful to the organization. So I loved that you used that you used open. Another piece I really want to talk about, because there's a lot of buzz, how AI and machine learning is there to take jobs away. And that's really not the case. When you really start looking into the subject, it's about, and you used it earlier again, integration. AI and machine learning is there to help us make our jobs easier and more efficient. And do you want to speak a little bit to that and just some of the things that you've identified that people are maybe need to learn a little bit more when it comes to this machine learning and AI integration into their organizations?
For sure. So I think the number one piece is around that socialization and education of your broader workforce as you're thinking on bringing on an AI team or any kind of digital transformation in general. So the more aware that the broader team is around a shared glossary of terms, a shared understanding of the impact of the technology you're bringing on, the more welcoming and open they'll be when those people start to arrive and start maybe knocking on doors, looking for new ways of doing things or to have people open up opportunities for them. So that's probably the first piece is if you are looking to do a major digital transformation, possibly using ML, is to really invest time into thinking through what might be some of the concerns and worries of your broader workforce that you can really kind of mitigate upfront and have those conversations. We really do think people are at the center of AI, and a lot of the conversations around AI are around bringing in the right talent, that recruitment piece, the retention piece, and then also the legacy planning or the knowledge sharing. And that's something I personally really enjoy about Amii and our culture and community here is that we're really anchored in that knowledge sharing piece and that we're people first. And I think that's something I've seen throughout the AI talent community is this goal to kind of share knowledge. So I think that's a piece that's really a benefit to the companies as you bring this talent in is that they want to talk about how this technology can make your job more efficient or more safe. It just means that the jobs might change, but it's best to have that open dialogue.
Yeah, awesome. Speaking about knowledge sharing, can you talk a little bit to some of the programs that you have in collaboration with educational institutes? I know you guys are working on some stuff with Norquest College. Can you speak a little bit more to some of that and tell us what that's all about?
For sure. So I think first and foremost is our longstanding relationship with the University of Alberta. So here at Amii, we have over 30 fellows and Canada CFAR AI chairs. And part of their role doing fundamental research in the domain is they're also training the next generation of AI leaders at that graduate level. And so Amii is celebrating our 20th year of research excellence this year. And so there's this 20-year history of incredible AI leadership. There's lots of people that stayed focused on research, but many, many of the graduates at the master's and PhD level moved into applied AI. We here at Amii offer some upskilling and technical work outside of the post-secondary environment. So we have those monthly workshops, and we also offer two massive open online courses through the Coursera platform, one focused on machine learning and one focused on reinforcement learning that train thousands and thousands of people around the world every year. I think last year we trained over 95,000 people through those two properties alone. And then right now we're working on something called the Pathways Project, which is funded by Prairies Canada, led by Norquest, which allows for that kind of entry-level technician training at 4 different post-secondaries in Alberta. And so I know that Norquest is looking to recruit for that first group of students right away, and they're really leaning into filling those technical gaps on what might be your team. And so that's another kind of common mistake we might see in small and medium-sized enterprises when they're bringing on technical talent is looking for someone who can do everything related to a project. And you might need to really map out what are your opportunities and match the right role to the right skill set so that you're not kind of setting yourself up for failure and you really understand the full scope of all the different work that might need to be done to get yourself to success.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned University of Alberta and, third, I think still third highest ranked when it comes to artificial intelligence research. And I mean, Alberta has been crushing it when it comes to being a leader in artificial intelligence, with your guys' organization and the educational institutions adopting, the education to the world about this subject. So it's super cool. With employers that are looking to correctly, as you say, map out what the integration looks like with their company, they can come to you, obviously, for some of those educational pieces that you just mentioned. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So we offer a number of ways that we can interact with companies really early stage. And I think the piece that I like the most is a project we do with companies called an AI planning and initiating session. And that brings together the technical folks you might already have in your company, plus all the different kinds of domain experts that you have to really map out all the ways that you might want to use AI in your business and then help set priorities based on people's real understanding of the risk they're wanting to take. So always there's some low-hanging fruit of things that can move forward more quickly and with less risk. But if the company identifies that they really want to go for something that is going to be maybe a little more iterative, that might take a little bit of time to find the talent or involve a lot of internal setup to be successful, at least everybody's going into the projects with the same frame of reference for kind of why something was selected and all of the exciting things that might be possible, but some of the barriers they might hit as well. So we do that kind of hands-on work with companies on a day-to-day basis. And then for companies that are looking for like more tangible hands-on guidance, we do also project validations and scoping advisements, which help work with your teams to really identify the likelihood of success of a project, but also all the steps required in order to move in the right direction.
Gotcha. Do you guys dabble at all in talent acquisition? Do you guys have a database of professionals that are coming out of some of these programs from U of A and Norquest that you can share with employers that are looking for, those positions filled?
For sure. So I think the most important thing for us when it comes to talent acquisition and meeting the talent base that we have here in Alberta is meaningful connections. So we do that through our AI Career Accelerator.
Okay.
And so we have a number of activations that really foster the develop of the talent in the pipeline to make sure that they are excited about applied AI because we know that all of our researchers do a great job getting them excited about the research of AI. So our job is to get them really excited about applied AI and what that looks like and to experience it throughout their educational journey. And we also help them develop all of the additional skills they'll need to be successful in a high performing company that might be like what you're recruiting for. And then for companies that want to build a relationship with that talent, it's trying to get out of transactional mode and into like value mode. So how do you go from kind of reaching out on LinkedIn or cold calling where everything's the transaction to where you've really provided value in every interaction as a potential employer. And I think that's something that companies can start doing before they're ready to adopt the AI specific to a single project if they know they're heading in this direction, to really think of that model of what can we do first to support the talent community so that when we are ready to hire, there's this great group of people that trust us because we've shown up in the ecosystem before and we've demonstrated our value before we've asked for something in return. It's a very different approach to recruitment. It's kind of playing the long game in order to really build that brand affinity with the talent as they're going through all facets of their educational journey. And there's lots of ways to do that authentically. So it could be working with Amii and partnering on a panel discussion. It could be working with another organization and really championing the role of an intern or a student on a project. And it also is around kind of asking the talent bases and the different events and conferences and activations they do, how you can help. And often that will go a long way in building that relationship with a potential hire before you're ever in the need to kind of parachute someone into a really well thought out role in a defined project.
It's very honest and it's very wholesome. I love the environment that you guys are nurturing, and you essentially created that environment of welcoming, and this is nothing to be afraid of. Come into it, learn it. It's going to just enhance everything that we do. And you guys are doing an amazing job at getting that messaging out there, which has helped Alberta become a leader in the subject. So thank you so much for everything that you guys are doing over there at Amii. I think there was some massively important information in this segment, and we thank you for your knowledge and for sharing it with us and for joining us today, Stephanie.
Thank you so much for having me. I always love to talk about AI in Alberta.
Awesome, right on.
Ooh, that's cold.